common type of failures that we encounter in case of boiler?
In my opinion, there are more than 15 damage mechanisms which are operating. What we need to do is we have to redefine your and my health, starts from the kitchen, and who rules the kitchen. They decide whether how much cholesterol in our body will come. Same thing, water chemistry plays a very critical role. Consider the boiler tube failure as an opportunity and treat them with dignity and respect the way human body is respected. Otherwise, you will not be able to get the right information. He needs to have the total understanding about the boiler. Otherwise, he will write the report which is not possible to be read by the end client.
I want to introduce you to the book. This book, Failure Investigation of Boiler Tubes, a comprehensive approach. And Mr. Paresh Haribhakti happens to be the proud Indian who has authored this book. Welcome to Behind the Steam, a podcast. The podcast theme is Behind the Steam, investigating boiler tube failures. As we all know, steam happens to be the working fluid of a coal-fired thermal power plants. And this steam is produced in a steam generator, popularly known as boiler, and is utilized in the steam turbine for generation of electricity. This downtime of boiler results in loss of millions of Indian rupees in terms of downtime. Joining us today is Mr. Paresh Haribhakti, a very, very well-known and recognized expert in analysis of boiler tube failures and author of the renowned book Failure Investigation of Boiler Tubes, a comprehensive approach. This book has been published by ASM International, which is a rare honor. With over 9,000 industrial problems solved, Mr. Paresh Haribhakti is one of the most renowned and respected names in the domain. Mr. Paresh, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Mr. Paresh, as we all know, boiler tube seems like a technical issue, but it brings down entire power plant units. What is your perspective on this?
See, we all know that boiler basically is designed to exchange the heat, and principally this is done by the so many kilometers of the tube which is going inside. It is said that in a power plant there are about 500-kilometer long tubes are there. Now these tubes are holding the entire pressure of the boiler. Any leakage, it can be a minor pinhole leakage or a rupture of the tube. It disrupts the power plant balance between the pressure and operation, and boiler needs to be shut down because rated steam cannot come. So, and then considering the huge amount of tubes, the chances of the boiler tube failures are higher in different sections, and they put the entire plant down. These downtime of the plant takes normally 3 to 6 days to put into the operation, and hence huge amount of economic losses occurs, a startup cycle occurs, and hence though it's looked technically, it has a huge impact on economy and safety of the power plant.
What are the most common type of failures that we encounter in case of boilers?
See, when we talk about failures of the boiler tubes in boiler, there are different damage mechanisms which are like a very popular damage mechanism which everybody understands is a overheating failures. There can be a long-term overheating or a short-term overheating. In water wall tubes, you have under deposit corrosion like hydrogen embrittlement or hydrogen damage. Then you have other failures like erosion failures. Then you have a hot corrosion failures. You have a fatigue failure. You have wear failures. So, there are many different damage mechanisms. There are 36 damage mechanisms which are operated in a typical boiler, and in boiler tubes, in my opinion, there are more than 15 damage mechanisms which are operating.
Let's get technical. What does a proper boiler tube failure investigation involve?
See, this is like a forensic investigation, Mr. Singh. Uh, Many times people do investigations for sake of the investigation. But here this question is an excellent question. I want, because of your this podcast, I want to enrich the audience which is listening to this podcast, that every failure of a boiler tube is an opportunity to understand your boiler. What we do is we collect the failed sample, normally 1 feet on both the side of the failed sample or a failed area, and then it needs to be preserved immediately. And after that, we ask a series of questions which we call the background data. Once those background data and information are available to us, what we do, we do the visual examination in the laboratory. Then we decide further examination in terms of dimension measurements. Then we take the photography of critical areas, we enlarge them, we try and cut open the tubes in the two hubs without any damage to the damaged area, and then look from inside how the damage is occurred. After that, we typically check the chemical composition and mechanical properties of the material, because many times I have seen, even in today's time, the mix up of the material occurs. So you have to doubt everything when you do investigation. So after that, we check the fracture surface of the boiler tube, we undertake metallography and fractographic analysis, and based on the microstructure, because there is a beautiful correlation of iron carbon diagram with boiler tubes.
Absolutely.
So you can correlate the temperature excursions, you can find out what had gone, you can find out the history. So it's basically a forensic investigation, and based on which you put all the analysis along with the operation, because merely a laboratory guy will not be able to do investigation. He needs to have the total understanding about the boiler while he is correlating. Otherwise, he will write the report which is not possible to be read by the end client, because he needs to understand. So this is the process in which multidisciplinary aspect occurs, and then we provide the report with identifying the damage mechanism, and we give them the recommendations, whom to contact, which experts to be consulted, and which area to be looked. So the entire report provides the guideline to solve the problem.
That is quite comprehensive. As a matter of fact, Mr. Paresh Haribhakti, you have echoed my thoughts. I always believe that boiler tube failure investigation is analogous to forensic investigation.
That's true.
In light of that, it's very important to preserve the samples properly. How important is preservation of the samples in the domain of boiler tube failure investigation?
See, that's a very pertinent question, Mr. Singh. We analyze about 20 tubes a month, and we receive these samples from all over the country. Let me put it this as from the Middle East side and from different parts of the world as well. So what happens? The boiler tube sample is normally, after failure, it is always lying in a one part of the corner in the cabin, because it's a failed part.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I should not use this word, but I have not liked it when people play football with this. So what happens is, we try and analyze the corrosion products on the surface, on inside the tube and outside the tube. So any contaminations which are coming from the environment will mislead the investigation. This is number one. And second thing is, while any mechanical damage on the tube, if something falls on the tube, it will give again a false indication. So if you want to reach to the right root cause, it is very important to preserve the sample, and I am thankful to you for bringing this wonderful point. And on the medium of this podcast, I appeal to all the people that consider the boiler tube failure as an opportunity, and treat them with dignity and respect the way human body is respected. Otherwise, you will not be able to get the right information which we want.
Now we come to operation and maintenance aspects of boilers.
Yes.
What is the importance of proper operation and maintenance of boilers to prevent occurrence of boiler tube failures? I always believe that controlling the water chemistry in condensate, boiler tube feed water is very, very crucial for preventing boiler tube leakages and boiler tube failures. What
I
is your take on this?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Singh, you're quite right. Because when a boiler tube is manufactured, it is manufactured to take certain design condition, or according to design, the particular grade is selected. So when the tube is manufactured as per the specification, it is supposed to take care about the operating parameters. But if you see, this is the beauty of the investigation and running the plant, because it is impossible for every boiler to remain within the domain of the standard operating window. It's a operation of a huge kind where minor variations are bound to happen. And that window is very important, because you asked me three questions. If I summarize, one is, what is the role of operation, what is the role of maintenance, and what is the role of water chemistry
Absolutely.
maintenance. So these three aspects are the critical aspect of the boiler tube life extension. Let me put it this way: whenever operation aspect which comes into the boiler, it creates local temperature variation. The importance of the uniform temperature in the boiler, or where the fireball should occur, or what is the calorific value of the fuel which is used, because normally coal,
Yeah.
oil and gas, these three things are used. So we have to ensure that the entire operation is done within the design premise, design window.
Absolutely.
Now suppose we know sometimes we have to use certain available fuel only, then it is knowledge that which area will be affected, that must be studied before such fuels are used.
Absolutely.
So during next turnaround, you can go for a preventive approach rather than the investigative approach. So boiler operation plays a major role in extending the life of the boiler tubes. And in my opinion, a detailed education is to be given to operation guys with respect to damage mechanism of the boiler tubes. Regarding maintenance aspect, the maintenance plays equally critical role, because the erosion failures, the positioning of the tubes, any damage in the cleats of the tube will bring the tube outside the purview, and the erosion will occur. Then the soot blower maintenance is a very vital.
Absolutely.
If it is not maintained properly, erosion failures will occur. Certain water will remain in the erosion aspect. And then welding plays a much major role. And many times what happens, when tube fails, people just replaces the tube because that's the need of an hour. At that time, a proper WPH and PQR should have been put into right place, and the inspection strategy has to be done in such a way that the repaired area is within the alignment of the standard practices. So maintenance aspect plays equally important role, and very important aspect is where to inspect and what to inspect. That also is done with the age old aspect. What we need to do is we have to redefine. Suppose today's time, if you see, there is a lot of pressure on the power plants for a flexible operation. There are cycling operation for which the plant is not designed. So one should know which area to be inspected with respect to their design, their operating condition, and their problematic area. So predictive approach can be derived from the boiler tube investigation. So that's another beautiful aspect. And the third very important aspect is, like your and my health, starts from the kitchen, and who rules the kitchen. So they decide whether how much cholesterol in our body will come. Same thing, water chemistry plays a very critical role in deciding the right thickness of the scale plus composition, because chemistry maintains the type and composition of the scale, plus any deviation in the chemistry will give you certain corrosion problems in certain areas. So we need to be very careful. But I am very happy to say that the water chemistry aspect is very well taken care overall in the power plants. The failures because of the water chemistry are only happens because of accidents. Right now, in my opinion, the failures are more shifted towards the operation philosophy, the flexible operation, and sometimes disturbance in the water chemistry, but not always. I hope I have tried to explain you, sir.
Mr. Paresh Haribhakti, you have very aptly elaborated the importance of operation, maintenance, and water chemistry in power plants. I think this also extends to blowdowns.
Yes, very true, very true. So, the blow down cycles, it is very important that we reduce the number of blow down cycles, but it is very essential to remove the extra chemicals which are there in the boilers in terms of blow down. So, overall managing the entire boiler with different parameters and with understanding about the damage mechanism. You know, earlier we used to operate the plant based on the OEM guidelines, but we were never operated our plants considering the damage mechanism. Now ultimately the damage mechanisms understanding with integration of operation and maintenance is the key to avoid boiler tube failures.
Friends, what Mr. Paresh Haribhakti has explained is the importance of boiler operation and maintenance for ensuring the health of boilers and also the health of downstream critical equipment like steam turbines. So that is also, if boiler is maintained properly, we are ensuring the safety and health of the steam turbines, which is the working horse of a power plant.
Absolutely.
Mr. Paresh Haribhakti, you have given us very useful information for ensuring good boiler health. And now to summarize, how can power plants prevent boiler tube failures in their respective domains?
See, my dream for the power industries and for all operating boilers.
It is a sort of strategy.
Yes. No, I appreciate it. See, the dream of every power plant, or my dream also, is to have the zero boiler tube failure, which is an achievable goal.
Absolutely.
Now, how do we achieve this goal? By understanding the damage mechanisms and bringing the people, those who are responsible in operation and maintenance, into this team. Many companies I have seen that they have formed a task force to avoid this, but the approach, in my opinion, is a gap which is needed, that understanding about the, because ultimately it's a metal which is getting damaged. So, a understanding of damage mechanisms and forming the operation regime, that, let me give you an example, that every increase in 10-degree temperature will reduce the life of the boiler tube by 1/10. So design temperatures at 10 degree, if you are going up, then the design life reduces to 1/10, which means that the operation person must know that he should always remain 20-degree down than design, then the life of the creep life of the tubes will be very high.
Absolutely.
So this is one aspect. Second aspect is, for example, you have under deposit corrosion. Now, under deposit corrosion occurring at one location will give you definitely a problem at other location, because it's a huge boiler. Now, which area will be prone to this kind of damage needs to be understood by understanding the damage mechanism and operation philosophy. So, there has to be a chartered proactive plan, and we call this as a knowledge based audit.
Absolutely.
Knowledge based audit is a thing which TCR Advance is promoting in these industries and making the entire audit of the boiler and make a roadmap for the proactive damage identification. And then during shutdown, you analyze those aspects with the right entity, because people also do not understand which entity to be upon. Many times what happens, the effectiveness of NDT technique is not there to find out particular damage. So, in order to do the proper damage assessment, right technique, employment, identification of the areas are very, very important. So the task for committee, if it is done by assisted by knowledge based audit, I am sure that over the time, in couple of years, the boiler tube failures can reduce to zero by taking the right corrective measures. I appeal to everyone that whenever there is a boiler tube failure occurs, consider this as an opportunity, as I told you. Get it analyzed. If there are more than one failures, please take the help of an expert which tube to be analyzed. Don't give samples by taking your judgment and analyze. And then once those data comes, conduct the meeting with the operation and maintenance with the boiler failure expert and bring it to actionable results. So the root cause is addressed and not the problem.
Friends, as Mr. Paresh Haribhakti has very nicely explained all the aspects of boiler tube failures, now I feel that time has come to implement the knowledge based approach in your boilers. Please have a look, and TCR Advanced Engineering Private Limited can play a major role in implementation of knowledge based approach at your power plants. Before I ask Mr. Paresh Bhakti my next question about his book, I want to introduce you to the book. This book, Failure Investigation of Boiler Tubes, a comprehensive approach, has been published by ASM, American Society of Metals, and Mr. Paresh Haribhakti happens to be the proud Indian who has authored this book. I personally consider this book to be a Bible in the domain of power plant engineering. And I personally keep this book with me and I refer to it in most of my consultancy assignments. So, Mr. Paresh Haribhakti, I think you must be feeling enlightened about having written such a crucial book in the domain of boiler tube failures. What is your take and what is your advice to the users about this book?
See, the idea of writing this book came while I was interacting with the people who suffered the boiler tube failures. What I felt along with my co-authors, that there is a gap exists between knowledge and practical aspect.
Absolutely.
And when the knowledge meets with the practical aspects, one can extract the life of the boiler. I am delighted to say that I have seen the boiler which is operating more than 75 years without problems.
Great.
So
Amazing.
So this book will definitely serve the basis of understanding of damage mechanism. It has a combination of theory with more than 200 case studies. So this will help people to understand, and I'm sure the knowledge will always, sharing the knowledge is the basis of increasing the knowledge and awareness. So on that basis, this book was, I was inspired to write this book.
I personally feel that this book should be used as a textbook in our universities and engineering colleges and colleges of higher education. This is a very important, and the reading is very lucid and very interesting to read this book. Even a non-technical person can also understand. So I will request the audience to please have a look at this book. And for any other queries, you are advised to reach out to TCR Advanced Engineering Private Limited, and they will be your partners and they will do the hand holding with you for ensuring that your boilers have an extended life and trouble free operation. Friends, if you have liked this podcast, please make sure to follow our page and subscribe to the channel. And you please also share it with your friends and other colleagues.